All right, welcome back. Just got a few things I want to talk to you guys about today. There's a couple of Tier 2 matches that took place back in January. Both seemed like good matches. Kind of different from one another, but both seemed interesting. I saw some footage from at least one of them, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw the footage from the second one too, but I can't remember. But either way, I want to talk about those and kind of some of the trends we're seeing in those. And also, I want to talk to you about the RMSx, which is a very large windowed dot that is on the 365 or the RMSc footprint. So take a look at the rest of the stages and we'll come back and talk about those things. All right, welcome back. So like I said, I got a couple of matches I want to talk about. One is the Arctic Blast. The Arctic Blast is a cool match. It's up in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So I happened to be up there in like 2023 for work, and I got to go to that match and schedule some reserve Air Force Reserve time around that. So been to that match, great match. That took place back in January, on the 10th of January. High overall was James McGinty shooting a CCP gun, so hell yeah, CCP. I'm pretty sure James is a DM in something else. I want to say ESP, but I'm not certain. CDP was Mark Ruddle. Well done there. Don't know Mark. I think the only people I really know on here or know of are James McGinty and David Olasso, who came in first in SSP. In Revolver, Jeffrey Fletcher. And ESP, Rick Weiss. And CO was Andrew Margolin. So well done there, fellas. It looked like a cool match. I saw somebody's video. I think it was Andrew Margolin's video. And something else I thought was kind of interesting about that match was like they were all short courses. So when I was there, it wasn't that way. There was like it's a tier 2 match, and I want to say there was like I don't know, like 8 or 10 like stages, and some of them were short, but most of them were like big stages. And also, that was definitely the coldest I've ever been shooting a match. It was freezing up there, and I have this in my memory, and maybe it's not true. Somebody can remind me if they were there in 23 too, but like I felt like it was just like cold and dry. So like I don't know. That's what I remember from that year. But it was an awesome match. I would definitely go back if I was in the area. You know, I'm probably not going to be traveling that early in the year, but if I was up there again, I would definitely do it again. Total of 55 shooters, no DQs, so awesome there. And from what I could tell, no gear failures. At a tier 2, I don't think that it's required to do like chrono and gear checks, so that might be, I mean, not that like anybody's getting over, but like that might be the case. Another thing that I'm looking at and pointing out more now, especially shooting more bug optics or advocating for it, 26 of those 55 shooters were dot shooters. So CO. There was no PCC. I kind of add PCC in with CO shooters because you get a dot, and so like yeah, PCC shooters are just dot shooters who don't want to shoot a handgun. Anyway, yeah, so I don't know why they did all short courses. It was snowy, so maybe it was icy and they didn't want people running around, or maybe they just thought it was cool, so I don't really know. I thought that it was interesting in that like this is a defensive sport, and like as much as I like big long stages where I have to run from position to position and engage targets, that's not really what a, you know, as far as like, you know, there's not like one thing that's going to happen in a defensive situation, but like, you know, from what I have seen on like active self-protection and stuff, it's usually like, you know, a few shots or a number of shots, and it's, you know, it starts and then it's over. So I feel like those are kind of more realistic in the way that I guess I'll use that word, even though that's kind of weird. The second match I want to talk about is the Blizzard Blast, so also in January. So we're seeing a trend here with a cold themed matches. All right, that came out weird. But anyway, that took place on the 24th of January. The high overall was Corey Messersmith in PCC. Excuse me, which awesome. More dot shooters. SSP was Justin Fletcher. ESP was Chad Elrod. Revolver was Patrick Craig. Aaron Rags Ragusa. And Bug, locking it down. Nice work, buddy. CCP, Jay Whitaker, CO, Brian Weiss, total of 90 shooters up there. I don't know. I think I saw some video footage from this, but I'm not 100% certain. I want to say this was indoor, but like I said, I'm not 100% certain. So 1 DQ, not bad for 90 shooters. No gear failures. Again, I think that's as a consequence of being a tier 2. You don't have to do gear check, or it's not mandatory. So I think it's recommended in the match administration rules. So awesome. This I thought was super interesting. 53 of the 90 shooters were shooting in a dot division. That's 43, 42 or 43. Maybe I'm off by one. I think it's 54. But either way, 43 CO shooters and 11 PCC shooters. So that's almost 60% of the match was all CO shooters. So like, we're just starving, just begging for another division with dots. And so more evidence, more interesting ideas or interesting thoughts about why I think we need more dots. Or yeah. So anyway, that's all that's to the good, all interesting. I did notice for the Arctic Blast that Bug is reported on the scores, but there was nobody in it. So I don't know if that means they didn't allow Bug and it's just on there, because that happens sometimes, or if they didn't or if just nobody shot it. So which tends to happen. I think at the Blizzard Blast there was only 2, but with dots, maybe more people would shoot it. Okay, so what I want to talk about today, what I'm really here for, is the RMSx. I showed you this to you once before. The RMSx is this huge dot. So you saw it from the stages. Like this is it. The window is huge. So I wasn't really looking for this. I just kind of came across it because me and Kevin, another dude who shoots bug optics up here with me in Washington, we were kind of like talking about, hey, you know, what fits on this footprint, and might it be easier with a bigger dot? And I just stumbled across this thing, and I had seen it before, but kind of dismissed it because it was an RMSc footprint, and most of the big dots I was looking for, like for my USPSA 320s, are Delta Point footprint, Delta Point Pro footprint, or the 2311s I have the standard footprint, which is now escaping me. The Trigicon like SRO footprint. So like it didn't really, like, I don't need a big dot that that fits on this small footprint, but now I do. And so I came back to it. I watched another review from the Humble Marksman, and I was still a little leery because it's auto adjust only. And traditionally that has kind of turned me away, but I'll get more into that in a minute. So kind of the pros and cons for this thing. It is the largest window I think that you're going to find for the RMSc footprint. Like I haven't like measured it, and I didn't look up what the size of the objective lens is, but like I think that just to my eye, it appears to be as big as like an SRO. So it's pretty dang big. Another pro, it direct mounts to the 365. So it sits flush. The Mechanic M01 that I had on here before, like there was like a gap in here, and it worked, and it held 0 and shot fine, but like just that gap made me weird, or feel weird about it. Okay, the auto adjust, it seems to work faster than I could notice it. So I haven't had this very long, and I got a little excited and shot it quickly, or I mounted it on, like, it arrived on Friday, I mounted it on Friday. On Sunday I shot this ASI match. So like this isn't going to be like the most encompassing review ever. It's just that I got super excited about this thing because I think it's kind of like interesting and funny, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Yeah, but for a while, like auto adjust for me and for a lot of people were like persona non grata, man. Like we're not touching that, because like the last thing I want is to be on a sunny stage and this thing doesn't get bright enough, or it doesn't get to as bright as I want it. And so like that's kind of why I never really messed with those. But after the Mechanic M01, I was like, man, this thing, it's faster than I can notice it. And so like I went from my garage, which is right out that door, in here to the light dark, and like, you know, I almost can't notice it, or I can't be as fast. Like it adjusts itself well enough that like I'm not having a problem with seeing the dot or catching up to it. So yeah, I thought that was awesome. So the this version, the one that I got, is the glass lens. So apparently they used to make it with like a plastic lens, and people didn't like that. I'm not sure what the only plastic lens dots that I have any experience with is the Romeo Zero, and the Romeo Zero just kind of sucks anyway. But you know, I never had too much of a problem with plastic, but I suppose glass is better. If people say glass is better, there's probably a reason. As far as I'm aware, like I couldn't tell that much of a difference. But if it's glass and it's better, awesome. It came with that, and it's relatively inexpensive. So I picked this up. So I found it at this place called the Heart of Texas Armory or something like that. But I almost was like, is this really the price? Like, am I getting scammed? Because it was $360 or $359 something, $350 something like that. But free shipping, and the shipping was fast. So like I got this wild hair on like Wednesday or Tuesday and ordered it, and it was here by Friday. So like pretty good. And everywhere else I looked, it was over 400 or around 400. So I was pretty stoked to get it for around 350, 360. So pretty awesome there. Cons, indoor, like when I'm in the house or under these are LED lights, but like under artificial light, the dot seems to like modulate or blink a little bit, and like as I'm moving the dot inside, like it kind of like ticks across. There's a word for this and I don't even know what it is, but I've you know, some of the smarter dot guys out there can probably tell you like, oh, it's this or whatever, but it does that a little bit under this artificial light. But when I was outside, it didn't do any of that. So it was just, it auto adjusted well, and it auto adjusted to the point where it was like, oh, that's right where I would want it. Like I want it bright enough to see it, but I don't want it so bright that I'm getting like starbursts or whatever. It's not distracting me. It's just I'm seeing it as I'm watching the target. I'm seeing it there and going. So I really think the auto adjust is there, or is like capable on this dot. So yeah, modulates a little bit inside. The only issue I could see is if you're in an indoor match under artificial light, it could be an issue there. Cons, like this is kind of a con, I guess. Like it's not really like a carry size dot. Like it's bigger than that. But I'm going to talk about, so this kind of goes along with competition shooting and just divisions in general, but I'll talk about that more after I finish with the cons. On the edges of the, where the dot is held into the structure of the aluminum, like I can see this little like, it looks like air bubbles or something to me. I'll see if I can get a picture of it and post it, but like I don't think it's an issue, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know, I don't, it seems kind of funky to me. So, but if the glass comes flying out, I'll know that there was an issue with it. If not, then maybe I'm just being unnerved about it for no reason. So why get this big thing? And so I got to thinking, and like this is kind of, it's part of the fun of the handgun sports, or probably for like 3-gun and big guns too, but part of the fun is like taking a division and taking it to the limits of its logic. Like I'm not naive in thinking that like pushing for bug optics, that people aren't going to put these full-size dots on unless we were to restrict it, which is difficult, and I don't know that I would want to get that far into the weeds if we're making this into a division. It would be much easier just to be like, put a dot on whatever backup gun you want or whatever ADC gun you want, than to be like, no, you can only have, in this division, you can only have this size dot, because then it's like, well, what if this aperture is slightly too big or whatever? It just becomes a pain in the butt. But because of that, like people are going to take it to the limits of its logic. I'm one of those people. So like when I found out that there's a RMSc footprint huge dot, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to try it. So I don't know that this would be like the dot that I would use if I were going to run that division. I've also got some other stuff in the works to try out, but like that's part of the fun for me, is that like taking this stuff to just to the limit of what makes sense for this. So yeah, that's kind of the whole point of it. But I'm kind of digging that auto adjust feature, especially for somebody like me, who's like, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten, because I'm so used to shooting irons that I'm just, you know, okay, load and make ready, boom, load, holster, and then I draw out, beep, and I draw out, and it's the dot is way too bright, or most often way too dim, because I was dry firing in here, and it wasn't, I didn't need that much brightness. And then I'm like, dude, you gotta check the dot every time. And like I just, you know, I'm doing a little better with it now because I've been shooting it for a while. But like at first it was like, dude, you're such a demi. Like the first stage of every match, just when I started shooting dot, it was like, okay, this is gonna go off the rails because you're an idiot and you didn't check the dot. So with the auto adjust feature, like, I can be an idiot all I want. So helpful for that. Anyway, that's really all I got for you guys. Like, I'm probably going to do a follow-up on this thing because I'm going to keep shooting this. And like I said, I don't have a ton of time or rounds behind it or through it, but it's pretty interesting to me. And I really like that it's a direct mount on the 365 platform, which is what I'm using for bug and bug optics. So if you have the chance, check out www.dz-214.com, where you can donate to all the vetted veterans charities that we support. Yeah, and we'll see you at the next one.